back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all the books I read in 2019. I made this a goal of mine like 2 years ago to read more books. I just think that reading, like physically reading a book, not on your phone, kind of helps stimulate your mind a lot more. It also helps, I don't know, make you smarter. And yeah, books, I love the feeling of reading a book. There's some great ones out there, and I just like wanted to make it a goal of mine. For those reasons, as well as when I was little, I read books all the time. I read the Click series, if anyone knows those books, like the best like young adult books out there. And there's so many of them, but I used to read those when I was a kid, and I just wanted to get back into reading books. So I have a Goodreads account, and if you don't know what Goodreads is, I'll put the app here. It's a great place that I use to track like my reading, and so they have a reading challenge, and I made a goal of mine to read 10 books. I read 8.5. And I'm gonna get to all those books and talk about them and everything. I didn't get to 10, which is really sad, but also I just like this semester been so hard to read books because I'm just constantly busy, like 24/7. That's why I've been MIA really on YouTube. So the first book is a textbook, and I think that textbooks are considered books as well because you learn information and you have to physically read it. So I'm gonna add this in here because it's a book, okay? This one was for a class called Leadership I had, and we had to read this textbook called Leadership, and I actually had to read it. It was an online class, so you pretty much had to do it all by yourself. And so this, like, I had quizzes on the chapters in this book, so I actually had to go and read it, which was in a way nice to like physically read and like look for it. Made me learn about a lot more. But also this book is called Leadership, and I would say that I'm very introverted and I wouldn't go out of my way to become a leader. So I think this helped a lot. And yeah, I'm not really gonna go into anything about it. It's just literally about leadership. And first book. The next two books are also textbooks, but they're actual physical books. I had to read these for a class, and I honestly, these were probably the hardest books I've ever had to read, and they're philosophy books, so obviously they're hard. And I would say that I read them but didn't comprehend them at first, but then once in class when we talked about them, I understood them a lot more. So the first one is Plato's Republic, and you're like, if you know who Plato is and you know this book, you're like, you read that? We read, yes, pretty much. I would say that I read it, didn't comprehend it, like I said, and then like went on Spark Notes and kind of understood it, but we talked about it in class. But yeah, it's literally weirdly relevant to today's society. Lord of the Rings was based off one paragraph in this book, so that's very interesting. There's like a section about a tyrant or a madman, kind of like Game of Thrones. So I connected it to society today and like pop culture. So yes, Plato's Republic. The next one was a thin philosophy book, but this one would probably be more confusing than Plato's Republic. It is Descartes' Meditation on First Philosophy, and this is a crazy book. Like, I swear when we read it in class, I was like, what just happened? So it's literally like, how do you know that you're real or not? Or like, how do you know that things are real? Like, you're not being controlled by like an other being. Like, it's that weird. Like, we connected this to the Matrix. So if you've seen the Matrix, it kind of in a way is about this. So it's like, how do you know you're not like real or not? The next book that I read is a book called Dumpling by Julie Murphy. I don't physically have the book because I read it from the library, so I don't actually have it. But it's about this girl who mom was a beauty queen, and she was, I guess, the opposite of a beauty queen in a way, and so she decided to go and audition. She signed up for the beauty pageant and had a lot of her friends do it, so it's kind of like a girl power, like going against the norm per se, and it was such a really inspirational book. I highly recommend it. It's also a Netflix movie, and that one is also great. It's a little different than the book, but I mean, all movies are. So the next book that I read was Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda. I'm reading a lot of young adult books, but I'm still like a young adult, even though I'm going to be like 22 in like 2 weeks. But I think these are books that I've been wanting to read for a while when I was a teenager and just never got around to doing it. So I got this for Christmas last year, and I read it, and it's honestly so different from the movie. It's insane. So the movie is Love, Simon, and it's so different from the actual movie, which is kind of weird. But again, such a good book. It was also a super easy read. I read it in like 2 weeks. So yeah, highly recommend. It's about a boy who comes out as gay. But then I read this book. This is Eliza Lynch, Leave Your Mark, Land Your Dream Job, Kill It in Your Career, Rock Social Media. This is what it looks like. This book I read during the time that I was applying for an internship, and this honestly helped me so much. If you're a fashion major or just in general like want to know how to make it in a social media job or dream job or whatever, this is a highly recommended book. It uses examples in the fashion world, so I would say fashion people definitely buy this book. It is so good. Helped me land an internship, and the writer of this book was the Donna Karen's PR girl, so she's really highly skilled in what she's talking about. Then I read another self-help book. Those are probably my favorite genre other than romance, and this is You Are a Badass Every Day by Jen Cicero. Jen Cicero. She has so many You Are a Badass collections. So there's, I think, just You Are a Badass with money, and then this one's like every day. So in here it has like quotes and like positive messages pretty much. I read another self-help book. This is #Girlboss by Sophie Amarn. I cannot pronounce her last name, but she was the CEO of Nasty Gal. I don't think she's the CEO anymore, CEO and founder, and this just like talks about her experience with like making it in the fashion world and like creating her own company, and kind of like in a way the same as the Leave Your Mark book, but being like more like a girl boss. And it was a really good read. She had lots of pictures and like, again, like obviously a self-help book in fashion. And then I read this book. This is the Design Museum's 50 Hats That Changed the World. I got this for $3, or is it $2? $2 at a resale bookstore. Highly recommend resale bookstores because they have some cool books. This one's just like hats, and I love hats, so I read it. I mean, it talks about a beanie and like fedora. It's like, here's the beanie page. Just in general, like if you want to know about hats, like Design Museum has such a selection of like 50 things that changed the world. And I think I said that I read 8.5 when I meant 9.5. So yeah. So this is where it comes with the half book. I'm currently reading the second book in the Call Me By Your Name series called Find Me. This came out in November and I've been slowly reading it. Like I said, I've been extremely busy, so I haven't had time. So yeah, this is Find Me. If you don't know what Call Me By Your Name is, it's this book by, what's his name? Andre Etch. I can literally not pronounce people's names. But he wrote a book called Call Me By Your Name that became a movie with Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer, and it was nominated for an Oscar, which was cool. It's a very good movie and book. He came out with a second book that talks about Timothée Chalamet's character's father, Timothée Chalamet, and then Archie Hammer's character. And right now I'm on the dad part right now. So far it's very good. I mean, the first book was amazing. Those are all the books that I read in 2019. I hope you got some new inspiration of books that you can read in 2020. I definitely am gonna do another one of these at the end of 2020 and try to read a lot more because I just like books and my book collection is growing, and I think that they're great, in a way, decorations, but also like very interesting stories. So yeah, reading is a new hobby of mine. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I know for a fact my next video will be my finals vlog, which I'm going through right now. So stick out, watch out for that video. But anyways, this video is getting too long, so I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.